October 10th, 2021. Because we've had a CME ejection, or coronal mass ejection, from our sun that's Earth-facing, and it's on its way. This thing should be getting very close. I've got it paused tomorrow at 11 a.m. That's universal time. Universal time is 6 hours ahead of our East Coast, so that's going to put it at about 5 a.m. before sunset in the morning, which is kind of a good thing, because we're going to look at the direction the Earth is facing, when or what side of the Earth is facing the sun at impact, because that's going to be the most affected from this. And this one was a halo event. But at 11 a.m. UTC time, again 5 a.m. in the morning on the East Coast, but that puts it at 10 a.m. in the morning on the island of La Palma. And these things can cause earthquakes. We've seen it before. So La Palma at around 10 a.m., starting around that time and going on for a few hours, will be in the middle of this event. And then again, it'll be about 4 a.m. here Central Time, and you can do the math from there across the rest of the U.S. But you have about a 7-hour, plus or minus 7-hour window of opportunity here for this thing to hit, because they don't know the exact speed yet. But the solar wind is going to kick up to over 1 million miles per hour. You can see that in the bottom green graph. That radial velocity is solar wind speed, and it's going to go from just over 300 to over 500 kilometers per second. If you notice the timestamp, it has just turned to the 11th universal time, 0466, 46 minutes after midnight. Again, that's UTC time, so you're about 11 hours out from the Earth being impacted, and again, that's has to do with that 7-hour either way window of impact, you may call it. But it was an M flare, which is next to the X flare category, and you can see it was very impressive, and we have a very large sunspot that is Earth facing. So we're going to be watching this, guys. Earthquakes are always typical. Now, it was a full halo, which means when it explodes from the sun, you can see the entire ring. But this satellite is not Earth facing. This is stereo ahead. Earth is to the right, where I have the arrow there. And this blast definitely headed our way from that sunspot, but you could tell it would be obvious, because the satellite that we see it from right here is an Earth-facing satellite. It gives us a sun-facing perspective, as if you were from Earth. It's not over to the left of this image like the satellite we just saw, but you can see this blast. And when you see it to the right, you'll see also another filament release that's being tracked on a separate CME model, but it's not Earth-facing. It's off to the right. And this, again, Earth-facing images from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And this is you got 12 cameras, 12 different filters, and it gives you the ability to look at different things on the sun and to look at it without having to block it, as some cameras do, and then they just look around it. But here's the flare vent. This is on what's called the teal camera. Check that out. Gave you that X flare signature. We'll kind of back it up and play it right through here. Anyway, guys, I wanted to update that and update the impact times, predicted impact times. So that's all we can do is go by that model. Sometimes they're later, sometimes they're earlier. But this was a full Earth-facing CME. So we'll see what happens. We do know our solar wind speed is going to reach over 1 million miles per hour, and that will be not quite doubling it if the graph is right. But that's a tremendous amount of energy, with your proton density going from 5 to 25, or 5 times the density of the energized particles, basically inside that wave. And because of La Palma, I keep mentioning that, because they're going to be pretty much facing the sun during the impact time, it would be a very good time to watch for earthquakes. And with that plus or minus 7-hour window, you have to look earlier than that and possibly a little later. So now's the time. If you're in La Palma, not right now, it would be about 2:22 p.m. a.m. in the morning there. And I'm sure there's some folks up watching the volcano. I know the camera crews are. But make sure if you're not there, but you have friends there that you can contact, or family, make sure you tell them to just kind of watch this. Scientists, they never will mention that the sun can cause an earthquake, solar flares. But we've been doing it for years and have been spot on most of the time. And if you remember, Tokyo in Japan, that island was directly earth-facing, or sun-facing, the moment an X-flare hit it and caused the Fukushima tsunami and earthquake. So they're real, these events happen. Not only that, our shields are weak, we're in grand solar minimum. That means this energy that we're seeing building up in all these volcanoes, it comes in from the sun, and it gets through our weak shields and penetrates, and you get sunburns very quickly, and the earth picks up all this heat. When the grand solar minimum is what we're sliding into, that's going to lead to colder winters coming up, and we'll just have to see how they get. Remember in my video where several scientists and meteorologists have said that this will be a longer and colder winter than normal. But again, you've got I know some people will say, well, that doesn't make any sense, because if the heat is penetrating into the earth, then why would the winters be colder? Because you're going into winter, and you don't have that heat of the sun with the weak shields. And you've got the Pacific Ocean didn't really heat back up this year, and that gives us some warmer weather during the winter. So you've had 2 years in a row of that problem in the Pacific. So with that impact, with the possibility of quakes going up, and I think there was a 4 this afternoon there already, or late this afternoon, then it's something to pay attention to. And with the effect on this energy being absorbed through our weak shields into our planet, the possibility of increased lava flow and explosions. So pay attention to it, guys. We're watching it. It's a heads up. Be safe.